everybody. Welcome to Martial Secrets. I'm your co-host, Kris Wilder, and with me, as always,
Lawrence Kane.
Yes, it is. Hey, Lawrence, a couple quick things before we dodge into this thing. What I wanted to know is how many T-shirts and sweatshirts can you put on in a single day? What are you wearing there? Are you wearing 3?
It's one T-shirt and one sweatshirt.
Okay, all right. It looks like a lot. It looks like you're kind of toasty.
Well, this is Seattle, and it is pouring down rain, and I do have a sinus infection right now, so I'm actually trying to be responsible.
All right, taking one for the team. Hey, what are we going to talk about? What are we going to talk about this episode?
Today we are going to talk about sex offenders and the dojo.
Oh, okay. All right. How about this one? Hands on the wall, punk.
Will seem like they go together, but actually they don't.
No.
Balancing special versus not special.
And then we're going to finish with Tales from the Tournament.
Tales from the Tournament. Cool.
I noticed this in the news a while back, but Wisconsin has proposed. I don't think it's become law yet, but I think they've proposed it, and it's moving through their legislature. And what it is it's a law to keep martial arts instructors with sex crimes in their past from teaching. And I'm looking at that, and I got to say, on first balance, it's like, yeah, why wouldn't you? Every politician's going to sign on to this, because if you don't love children.
Yeah.
And
love children in a good way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Touche. But you know what? I think there's already a law in place, isn't there?
Well, there is. Teaching's teaching, and you've seen this in Europe, right? There's this big trend about martial arts instructors have to be licensed through some kind of board.
Oh,
right?
yeah. No, let me tell you about this. When I was in Paris, it was, we would go down to the local community club, and that's where we trained, right?
Right.
And, we had the time scheduled and everything. And they were there all the time, the same time. It was da-da-da-da-da. But the thing is that you had to go through a program and be sanctioned by the federal government, or you could not access that property.
Right.
Period.
Yeah, exactly. And, it's interesting because, there's pros and cons, right? There's so many different martial arts and so many different styles that having some kind of board that, promulgates standards and whatever, in a lot of ways, to me, just doesn't make any sense. I don't see it as being practical. But, it's kind of like when I taught for 8 years at a technical college, and I had to get a license, from the state to be able to teach, get all the certifications and everything. And I was bound by in Washington, you actually either have to join the union or pay dues.
Yeah.
Right. And you have all these restrictions around how you do it. And of course, they do background checks, and they make sure that, somebody who's got some kind of a crime against kids in their past isn't going to be there, teaching kids today.
Well, when I taught at the YMCA, it was, here's your fill this out, put your fingerprints on it, get it to the Washington State Patrol.
Exactly. Right.
I go to my kids' school and I help out with some events that are going on around there. Sometimes I take kids on field trips, all that kind of stuff. Filled out the paperwork, gave them the fingerprints,
That's right. In fact, actually at our school, the Archdiocese has what they call safe schools training.
Mm-hmm.
It's both an awareness of sex offenders and how they operate and that sort of thing. And,
wait, I want to make this clear. You said the Archdiocese. So your son goes to a Catholic school.
Yes.
And you are
Jewish.
Okay. Very good. Just want to throw that dichotomy out there for you folks.
Yes. And, all right. So just to add to that, so I was a board member of the Parents Club for 7 years. I was the treasurer, which having a Jewish treasurer of a Catholic school is just too funny.
You know what? You do nothing to what is it? You do nothing to dissuade the stereotypes against your people.
Yeah, yes, I know. But the thing that's even funnier is after that, they made me they elected me the president, and so now I'm the president of the Parents Club of a Catholic school, and they actually start and end each meeting with a prayer, which of course I don't know. Anyway, so a little tangent there.
But anyway, back to
the yeah. So obviously there was been some challenges in the Archdiocese around sex offenders and the priesthood and that sort of thing. So they made this big effort to try to not only eliminate it there, but also especially anybody who wants to volunteer to help out. Parents Club board or, just chaperoning on field trips or dances or whatever, had to go through this, or else has to go through this training. And so, we had to, I can't remember what it was. It was 4 or 5 hours, fairly long course. And it was actually pretty good information, but they made everybody take the thing, get certified. Then you have an initial one that you have to take that's longer, and then you have to get a recertification every year through their website. So, they make a really big deal about making sure that it's safe. So going back to the martial arts thing, I don't see martial arts as being that different.
I don't either, but you know what it is? It's an opportunity for government to add another layer of something they can charge for. That's what it is. Because, if they did it here in our state, well, first off, our state would not be able to they would be able to implement it and gather the money from it, but that's all they'd be able to do. They wouldn't be able to really effectively prevent anybody from teaching because, well, it's our state and they can't find their butt with two hands. But the thing is that's what that is. And it's been tried a couple times, like in New Jersey, they've tried to standardize. And the problem that they run into is that they go, well, the board is comprised of this and this and this and this, and then some Chinese stylist shows up and goes, they don't know, they don't understand what I do, and so they'll just decertify me and say, well, you can't teach this because you don't know, and it creates a lot of problems because at the end of the day, most martial arts instructors are kind of like Batman. They're a little bit of a malcontent and hard to access, which I don't know that it's a good thing, but.
Well, but really, one of the things we did in our book, The Way to Black Belt, is we have a lot of stuff in there about how to find a good instructor because there aren't standards. But when you think about it, in a lot of ways, there shouldn't be because, if you're looking at Tai Chi versus Taekwondo versus Judo versus, Aido versus Karate the arts are so different and the reasons behind them are different. And are you doing a tournament style, competitive kind of thing? Are you in something that's a traditional classical martial art? Is it reality-based self-defense? There are so many different avenues that martial arts can take, and it's so broad that, finding a good instructor that focuses on the parts of it that you're actually interested in, let alone trying to figure out some regulation that works. Simple example, right? The targets that we teach for self-defense are all illegal in martial arts and Olympic Taekwondo and all that. You can't do those things. So do they say you can't teach them? How do you balance that, right? Because in sport, you don't want to stick your thumb in somebody's eye, and you don't want to rabbit punch to the back of their head and do these other things that can cause some serious injuries, but if it's some psychopath with a knife trying to, steal your cell phone or whatever, then, those things are fair game. So I just see it really, really tough to come up with some way to legislate that stuff other than, as you said, just to, increase the coffers, right?
Well, look, you have, there's an inherent assumption that you're going to be safe. If you go to a school or you go to your church or you go to a martial arts school or, whatever it might be. But the thing that I think that what they're looking at is just another avenue when I think there already exists. It's like the cell phone law. It's like, oh, you can't talk on your cell phone. That's a penalty. Well, wait a minute. Isn't there already a law called inattentive driving?
Yeah. Exactly. Right.
So just enforce the law that's already on the book. You don't need to build a special one just for that, because if you build a special one for a cell phone, you should build one for lipstick, one for mascara, one for drinking a pop, one for
exactly. Distracted driving, and sex offenders not being able to be around kids is sex offenders not being able to be around kids.
Duh. I don't know what else to add to it. So I think that we both come to the conclusion that that the spirit of this is well-meaning, but it just doesn't do anything but create another layer of bureaucracy for the government.
I totally agree. Let me add, though, that for those of you who are martial arts instructors who are listening to this, it's pretty easy to get accused of stuff when you're teaching a style that requires you to put your hands on people. When I taught computer classes, I couldn't put my hand on top of the student's hand and help them click them out. This is back in the days when mice first came out.
Sure.
And, people were having trouble double clicking. They could click and then they'd wait too long and click again. And it wasn't working. So I wanted to put my hand over their finger and double click so they could feel it, right? Yeah. I wasn't allowed to do that by school policy. I could have been fired for that. So when you're doing a sport, look at some of the holds in judo. So do everything open and in the public. Have a place where students, parents, if you're teaching a kids class, can watch and still be out of the way. I mean, don't go into the changing room with only one student at a time. Have multiple people around.
Listen, man, I will stand in the dojo and have the door open and speak to a kid, that's in the changing room. And I mean, obviously they haven't began changing or anything, but I simply will not be in. And I don't care if there's an army of kids back there. I don't do it.
Yeah.
I won't do it.
Yeah, just don't put yourself in a position where you can be accused of something, because let's face it, there's enough real stuff out there. Don't end up being, getting yourself in a situation that looks like you're doing something wrong when you're not.
Yeah, and we've talked about it before, but it's not a paranoid position really for me. It's a very open one, and I have some of my young students. They want to give me a hug and stuff. Well, they only come up to my waist, so they want to give me a hug. Well, I kind of turn sideways and let them have the hip,
Yeah.
and it's there in front of their parents, and I pat them on the back. It's like, hey, you're a great kid, keep it up, and away you go. And I don't want to get freaky about it, but I also don't want to be in any kind of position where I'm going to be accused of anything. I want everything to have the daylight shined on it.
Exactly. And it just avoids any misunderstanding. And, kind of the same thing goes for martial arts students. If there's, if you're going someplace and you're a parent and you got kids in the class, you should be able to watch. You shouldn't be getting in the way. But you should be able to watch, right? You should be able to talk to the instructor about what's going on. You should be able to see that everything's above board. And, there's already enough stuff that looks bad. We just got to keep that transparency going.
Yeah, so once again, the new Wisconsin law to keep martial arts instructors with sex crimes in their past from teaching, good idea, but not such a good idea when you really kind of look down at it, because there's already things in place.
Agree.
Hands on the wall, punk.
Hands on the wall. So this is our training tip of the day.
Yeah, Lawrence, why don't you explain what we're talking about when we say hands on the wall?
Sure. So in the past, we talked a little bit about kicking like a dog, right? Having 3 points of contact, making it easier to burn that muscle memory there so that you can do the technique properly if you're having issues with, balance or agility or whatever. So this is the same thing, kind of up a level, right? And that's just having an extra point to brace. So now you're going from 3 points to 2 points. When you're kicking, if you got trouble balancing on one leg and you start doing wild stuff, you're learning bad technique. And so, practicing a bad technique 1,000 times doesn't really turn it into a good technique so much as, cheat a little bit. Use the wall. Use a chair. Use something to brace yourself so that you can go slow, you can go proper, you can do a really, really good technique and start reinforcing and getting the feel of doing it right so that when you take the support away, kind of like training wheels on a bike, you're starting off with something where if you do it a little bit wrong, you go, I feel it. I know it's wrong. Have to correct that, as opposed to I'm trying really, really hard and it's not working.
Well, it's not a matter of being lazy either. It's a matter of training the right motion from the outset and not training a bad motion and then repeating that motion.
Yeah, it's really hard to correct bad habits. I noticed the kata I learned as a yellow belt, white belt, yellow belt, green belt. The first few kata actually sometimes don't do as well as kata I learned later, because I learned stuff sloppy, but I ingrained it and have to consciously think about not doing that sloppy thing.
Well, let me tell you this story. I was out on a beach with my instructor, and the tide had receded, and so you get that nice sand. It's kind of hard packed, but you drop down into it maybe about a half an inch, and so we're doing kata in the sand, and he says, let's do the first kata. So we do the first kata. And then he says, okay, shift over here. So we shift over here. He goes, let's do this kata. So we do this black belt form, at that level. And we get done, and he takes me over and he looks at this. He says, look at the foot motion in that first kata, and look at the foot motion. Look at your footprints in this one. He said, what's the difference between this first one and this second one? I said, well, the first one I learned when I was a white belt. And he said, yeah. And he said, what's the difference here? And I said, well, those foot motions show me that I learned this when I was like a black belt. And he went back over and he pointed at the first kata and he said, how come you still do that like a white belt then? It's like, oh man.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really hard to train some stuff out of you.
It is, because you do it so many times, it really gets ingrained, and and then you have to consciously slow down and fix it.
Yeah.
And it makes me feel better that you do the same thing.
Well, anyway, so, you use the wall. It's a great training aid, and, you can do two hands, you can do one hand, but the bottom line is that it gives you balance. And it's a good thing. The next stage, well, we'll talk about the next stage at another time. Again, the professional tees we talk so much about, but we'll talk about that a little bit more. But this is not new. I mean, my judo instructor, your judo instructor, same guy. He had me doing my uchimata up against the wall. I was grabbing the top of the wainscoting and swinging my leg and swinging my leg and swinging my leg, and him standing there going, that's not good, that's not good. But yeah, he was up against the wall. So the wall is a fantastic training tool if you use it. It's not a lazy thing.
Yeah, it's a great tool. I mean, you can't rely on it in real life, obviously, but it's the tool that helps you get to the point where you can do things without that support. Also, it's a great aid for stretching, it's a great aid for kicking, it's a great aid for a lot of stuff. Useful thing, except for leaning against the wall with your arms crossed, staring at the instructor and not paying any attention.
That's never going to end well.
No.
At the dojo, the balancing act of special versus non-special. I tell the students, and I especially underline this with the kids, that, you're different. You're not sitting at home eating chocolate-covered sugar bombs at 6:30 in the evening and watching iCarly or whatever it is. You're actually here with a very unique uniform on, with your rank displayed around your waist, and you're learning some skills. I tell them that they're special, but the kind of the shadow side to that is that, oh, aren't you special? Aren't you precious? Aren't you a prima donna? So how do you strike a balance in that? I mean, you've taught, at technical schools, you run a shop, of people that you've got to keep their positive mental attitude up, but you can't have them being prima donnas. How do you balance it?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting, because you're right. If you look at schools nowadays, right, there's an awful lot of this, everybody gets a ribbon, everybody gets a trophy, everybody, everybody, whatever, right? And
okay, I have to interject this because
sure.
Okay, all right. I'm doing t-ball with my kid, and my neighbor Jerry, his kids are doing t-ball too. And we're just kind of assistant coaching, and the head coach comes over and he goes, okay, well, we need to talk. This is the first practice.
Right.
We need to talk about getting trophies for these kids. And Jerry stops and looks at me, and I look at him, and Jerry looks at the head coach and goes, they haven't won anything. And I'm going, yeah, what he said. And
yeah, so I mean, you're right. It's such a it's such a common thing that everybody gets a trophy, and that doesn't teach people anything. It doesn't reward success.
It doesn't. But anyway, I digress. So my question was how do you balance it? Yeah.
Right. So the way I look at it is, we do need to be supportive. We do need to help people realize that they're doing something extra and whatnot. But we have standards, right? And so when you look at this competency-based kind of thing, with martial arts, it either works or it doesn't, right? You either break the board or your hand hurts. You're either able to demonstrate a technique that is successful or it's not successful. There's a lot of...
it's a binary world.
It's a binary world, that's right. And you don't really get points for trying hard. Which is the way, honestly, it should be, because in real life, if you get into a real fight, second place is a pretty bad thing, right? So it's at minimum, it's painful, and it can go downhill from there. And so really, it's kind of that competency thing. To get to rank X, you need to be able to do Y. So you can kind of help people to feel special and feel like they're doing something that is unique and be encouraging and challenging, as long as you've set those standards effectively so that they know for real. You're not blowing smoke saying, oh, you're special. You're saying, hey, you've accomplished X, therefore you've earned a new rank. Same thing, when I taught at the technical college, it was competency based. There's a test you have to take. You pass the test or you don't pass the test. Test is based on the skills you need to be successful using what you're learning. Same thing at work. We have performance management where we go through and we set a list of things. This is what you need to accomplish this year. And you either do or you don't. And it's possible to exceed expectations.
Are those reasonable? When you look at that list every year, do you look at it and go, holy shnikes? Or do you look at it and go, oh, can do?
It's about setting at the right spot, right? So we are expected, our managers are expected to set high expectations. So if I make it too easy, it reflects poorly on me. It reflects poorly on my folks, right? So we do have to set tough goals, but they also need to be achievable so people can find a way to make them happen.
Yeah, realistic and achievable.
Right.
And that's I think the key is making it realistic and achievable. I want to set the bar, especially for kids, to a place where it's going to be a little bit difficult to get over, but I know they can get over it.
Right. Yeah. And it should be time bound as well. I mean, you should have, if you have a goal that has no end date, it's harder than saying, okay, I want you to be able to do 50 push-ups by 3 months from now.
Right.
Or whatever,
No disagreement there. So I guess the conclusion is that you can be special, but you have to have reasonable goals, and in a combination of those reasonable goals and rewards for good achievement.
Right.
I guess that's the combination there. But this whole thing of just being special because you showed up, I don't
like that. My son was on a junior football team, and they not
which
only
went undefeated, by the way.
Yes, they did. They not only won their division, they also won an invitational tournament. And there's two senior teams, theirs and the other one. They got trophies. The other team did not get trophies at the awards banquet because they didn't win.
Yeah.
Nobody had a problem with that. I mean, everybody got a little, something, got a little ovation and whatnot, and some feedback and everything for having been part of the team, and that was cool. But the team that won, that had you should have seen the trophies that they took home from winning the tournaments. I mean, these things are like 5 feet tall. I mean, they're awesome. But the kids who were part of that winning team got really cool stuff, and the kids who just played didn't get the cool stuff. And it's the same thing, I think, in martial arts. You get some feedback and part of the group and all that for participating, but the standards have to be such that the ones who really excel are the ones who get you win the tournament if that's what you're doing, you achieve your advancement, whatever it happens to be. The rewards come from actually accomplishing something tangible.
Oh yeah, no question. And I guess when we become the dictators of the world, we'll make sure that that's installed across all strata of society.
That's right. No trophies just for showing up.
And now it's free space time.
Free space. Okay, sooner or later, somebody's just going to throw something at us for doing that.
It's fun.
It is. Tales from the tournament.
Oh yeah, okay. This is cute tale from the tournament, and I'm gonna use names here. I don't think Jeremy would mind, but I'm sitting at this tournament. I'm the center referee, which means I got 2 black belts on each side of me, and the kids are coming up and they're doing their kata. So they announce what school they're from, what their name is, what kata they'd like to do, and may we begin on so we're going through this.
It's kind of standard way that you started.
Yeah.
This is a kata tournament, I assume.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so Jeremy, who's sitting next to me, his son Odin is in the tournament, and Odin is like, I think maybe he might have been 4 at the time.
Real little.
Yeah, he might have even been younger than that. So he steps up, and man, he's looking pretty good. And he gets right up in the middle of stuff, and he stands out in the middle of the floor, and he bows. And there's a few pauses in there that are kind of like hitching the get-alongs, but you're like, he's a young kid, you look at, and we're diligently paying attention. And of course, his dad is his instructor, right?
Right.
So he does his bow and he says, "My name is Odin Johnson, and my instructor is Tatsu Shimabuku, who's the founder of Ishinryu Karate." and then he pauses and he goes, instead of saying what kate is going to do or what hand drill or something, he announces that he fights all day, all the time. and of course, Jeremy's sitting next to me, and he's just like frozen,
turning red.
He's like, "What is my kid doing?" And I look down the end, and Jeremy's wife and mother of Odin is like going, "What?" And she's going pointing at Jeremy like I blame him, and the kid fires off. He like turns, he does a head block, he does a punch, he pauses, he comes back. You're thinking like, oh, he's forgotten the form, and he just stops and he bows. And it's that's it, and we're all like, okay, great. So we give him a good score and everything. And of course, it doesn't mean anything to him, and he walks off. But to this day, it's still, my instructor is Tatsu Shimabuku, and I fight all the day, all the time, And it was a great moment. Of course, it was
aptly named Odin.
Yeah. There was a lot of discussion afterwards, and as we all stood around in the corner going, "Who's teaching that kid?"
Jeremy's hiding under the table.
Oh yeah, it was great. Hey, got a quick question for you: pancakes or waffles? Which one do you like better?
Pancake. Well, you know what? It sort of depends on what mood I'm in.
No, it doesn't.
But generally, it's waffles.
No, it's always waffles.
It's always waffles.
It's always waffles because they're harder.
Yeah,
they're harder than a pancake, and you get to pour syrup in all the little holes.
Well, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's always waffles.
Well, see, I like to take fruit, blueberries or strawberries or whatever, and decorate them with stuff to add.
I don't know you.
Yeah, I know.
No, it's butter, maple syrup, waffle, done.
Yeah, see, I don't
stop
do
right there.
I don't do the butter. I will do it with maple syrup. That's cool, but I also like putting some fruit in it.
No.
Yeah, I know. See.
All right, so buckwheat pancakes versus a regular waffle.
I still kind of tend to lean toward waffles most of the time.
It's not leaning towards, it's waffle.
Yeah, well,
buttermilk pancakes versus the waffle.
Well, here's the pancakes.
It's the waffle.
Here's the pancakes I like. Okay, now I'm really gonna embarrass myself. But so if I'm in the mood for a pancake, what I do is I make the pancake and I use sparkling water instead of regular water, so they get fluffier. See, I knew I was getting in trouble for this. And then I take the really, really large blueberries and just a tiny little frosting of sugar. So what they do is they actually caramelize, and it's like having syrup in the pancake.
I'm going to mock you forever over this.
Yes, I figured you would.
Oh, but I do you have the water imported from Italy?
Actually, the last water I used is imported from Italy.
Oh, Lord.
But you knew that when you're setting me up, man.
So anyway, all your cards and letters, if you want to send them in to Lawrence, and you can go ahead and do that. But
I will point out that the chairman of Iron Chef is Mark Dacascos, who is a very proficient martial artist and actor.
Sorta.
So you can be a tough guy and still like fancy foo-foo food.
Sure you can. Sure you can. You tell yourself that every morning, I'm sure. Hey, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, Lawrence, how do they do it? So that if they want to rail
after I've embarrassed myself,
Yeah.
I see. Okay, it's lakane@ix.netcom.com.
Wow. And, I can give you mine. Mine's kwilder@quidnunc.net. And that's QUIDNUNC.net. But the easiest way to do it is just simply go to the westseattlekarate.com, and you can reach me through there, through the contact page. As always, we always appreciate you listening to our fevered ramblings. It's always a delight for us that you find it of interest. And
well, there's a few gems between the fevered ramblings, but
I think so.
We try to be entertaining.
All right. Well, anyway, as I like to say, be well
and be safe.
Nice work.
Hi, this is Kris Wilder from Martial Secrets. Martial Secrets is free, but it's not costless. So tell your friends about Martial Secrets. Your good words are the best endorsement we can have. Also, if you like what you hear, buy one of our books, buy one of our DVDs. We think they're pretty good, and we think you'll find value in them too. As always, we appreciate you listening and your support. You can find us pretty quickly by just going to Amazon.com, typing in Lawrence Kane or Kris Wilder, and you can find all of our books and DVDs there. Thanks for listening, and be well.
Free space. Okay, sooner or later, somebody's just going to throw something at us for doing that.
It's fun.